My name is Yusuf. Yeah, my name is Yusuf. At least when I'm at home, I'm Yusuf. And then, so many other people feel okay, it's Gemini. And then so many people who are fans of my art calls me AREMO. Yeah, my mom calls me Okolanwo, but yeah, my name is Yusuf. So hello once again, I'm Yusuf Balogun Gemini. Ah, well, what is the whole facade about at the end of the day? I was born in the early 2000s, yeah, 2001, June 9, 2001. I know someone is probably processing, oh, probably that is why it's called Gemini. Yeah, I used to believe in this whole star sign horoscope things back then. Now, I don't know if it has changed. I was born in Lagos, yeah. I mean, as long as Yorubadia count as Lagos, because some people will tell you Makoko, Mushin, Oyinbo, Ijora, they shouldn't be called areas in Lagos. But yeah, I was born in Lagos. Omo Economy. I was born in Lagos. I was born in Yorubadia. For those who have been to that get-go, I mean, life over there is something else. The struggles, the riots, I mean, the Indians, the prostitution culture, all those things. You wake up daily to see little kids, tattered kids, playing around on beans and, playing around with dirt all around the environment. It's just what it is at the end of the day. I mean, it was just the culture, or should I say it is still the norm. It is the norm I grew up in. And then there's that expectation, there's that standard. Immediately you are born in a space like that, like, okay, we have a plus one, the conviviality is there, the fun, the joy and acceptance is there. I mean, just like the greats accept themselves, and then the big ones actually accept themselves. We are small, we are extremely small in Nigeria, but yeah, we are not so small in the sense of small, but then there's still that acceptance. The problem is, where are they accepting you to? Where are you being accepted to? I was born in a family, a father, a mother, and I had an elder sister, Tawakalitu Balogun of blessed memory. I had an elder sister, and I was the last child. It's actually safe to say that my parents were not ready to have a child as of the time I was giving birth to. I mean, not ready in the sense of not being ready, but I mean they already had past marriages in which they had children. I mean, I have quite a lot of step siblings, so both people involved were just looking for a final comfort zone, a final place where they can just be happy and in love, and then Tower was just the best bet. So I mean, it wasn't surprising that 4 years after the birth of Tower, that was why I came to be. Probably one of those nights they made out without family planning, and then this stubborn me just came to be. Yeah, I was born June 9, 2001 into the family of the Baloguns. Prior to my death, my dad was into welding and fabrications, but then some years, basically a year or two ahead of my birth, he focused on traditional medicine, which he actually claimed to be a line that was told by his grandfather, which he grew up with. So I mean, that blood was always there, that vibe was always there. So he settled into that line of traditional medicine, which the Yorubas call Ishegun. While my mom was a pap seller. Yeah, I mean, growing up then, I would still remember I would always have to see pap, and then in the evening, my mom and my sister would go out there to hawk the pap. I mean, it was safe to say that she was one of the most, patronized pap seller during that time. Ramadan period was always like festivals for us because I mean, little children would come in troops. They would come in chunk towards evening times. Aferogi funfun, aferogi baba, and then we grew up in that moment. I grew up seeing these things away from the idea of okay selling pap and all those things, coming down to the line of religion and all. My dad was not so religious. I tend to tell people I am a Muslim on papers, but then growing up, my dad was a Muslim, my mom was a Muslim, but maybe my dad was not a practicing Muslim because I mean he chose to toe that line of traditional medicine, traditional science, and he had so much beliefs in the fact that okay, he could actually communicate to the supreme God using or elevating every other form of what is it called, deities that are accessible to him. Growing up, there was this particular shrine, or should I say enclave, made for his Ogun then, yeah, Ogun, and that is the Yoruba god of iron. There was this enclave then, in our house. I mean, once you wake up in the morning and then you step out, you get to spot it immediately. I mean, it is still there. The spot is still there even now that I've relocated and all. And then for every day my dad wakes up, he will go there after saying his morning prayers and all inside. He would pour the palm oil on it. Maybe once in a month or once in 2 months, you get a cork or hand, slice it for the god, get palm oil, popcorns, palm wine, all those things, prepare and have a good time. It was always beautiful. I didn't really have the concept of okay, what is this whole killing stuff and all. I didn't really know what the concept was then. But then what I really loved was the fact that I got to eat chickens every month. So I was always looking forward to eating chickens. So even if he's so down financially and all, we are always making sure to remind him that I did part yellow too, because I mean we just had to it was just fun. It was just fun having to know that whether it was Christmas or it was not Christmas, you actually get to eat a rooster. And then he had so much belief in the Ogun, and then he's a king. In fact, before he does anything, he would consult the oracle. He would consult the oracle at home. He had a white ceramic porcelain at home where there were like 16 cowries. Henry Dilogun, yeah, he calls it Henry Dilogun. I mean, the Onitshaches will understand what I'm trying to say better. So he would always consult them, even before going out. He would always consult them, and then if they tells him okay, you can go out today, fine, he will definitely go out. And then if he's told not to go out, that probably a customer is coming or something good is coming, he would stay at home. And then funny enough, before the end of that day, something would actually happen or someone would actually come around that would prove the authenticity of that statement. So I mean, it was just there that way we grew up into that system. People coming around from different ends, pastors, imams, fellow Onitshaches, and regular corporate people coming around to make one inquiry and all, getting themselves treated. It's always fun to see how you could just mix or combine one leaf with palm oil, and before you know it, magic is happening. I don't want to call it magic, but I mean to a lot of people it's magic, because I mean a regular leaf you get to see every day, and probably pluck and play around it. And then my dad is plucking it, and then the next thing it's combining it with shea butter ori, and then it's using it to treat over 7-8 ailments. And then these things are actually working absolutely perfectly. It was just so interesting to see. I mean, I didn't grow up taking capsules. My dad calls it chalk. He would tell us never to go to pharmacies, never to go to never to go to chemist shop. It was either we were taking potions or agbo and all. Regardless of whatsoever it is, malaria, fever, he will never allow us take tablets. Even if my mom decides to be rebellious and then tries to get blood tonic in a pharmacy, if my dad should get to see it, he will flare up and be so angry, like, you guys are always fascinated by the things of the white. You don't appreciate the things that you can just pluck around your area. But then it was just somehow, should I say, ridiculous growing up. I mean, who wakes up every morning and then decides to chew bitter leaves? We had one huge trees of bitter leaf in our house. Then people were always coming around to pluck it, and then my dad will wake up every morning. He would go there, might pluck 6 bitter leaves, 7 bitter leaves, and just chew it. And then immediately after doing that, he would take onions, chew all sorts. And then I remember the first time I tried chewing a bitter leaf, I constipated throughout that day, because it was just so unbecoming to my body. Like, what the hell is this? But then that was the system. And then parents around were always telling their kids, don't go to their house, don't play with these children. Not like my parents even wanted us to socialize anyway. It was the system of just wake up, go to school, get back home, do your assignments, watch movies and sleep. Unlike the norm in Ijora, where the system was, okay, they wake you up by 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and then at that moment the child wakes up, he's probably still daydreaming, a slap wakes him to reality, get water to rinse his face, rinse his leg, okay, probably get what is it called, pako, rinse off the mouth. There's no food, there's no breakfast. I mean, there's no concept of breakfast in Ijora. You just drink water, and even if you don't get to drink water, just go to school. It's always strange how these children always end up getting late to school, because I mean, they would eventually go to other houses and try to feed. Those were things my dad never allowed us to do. He would tell us, never go out, never make friends in this area, because I mean, the concept of parenthood in most of those homes were just so weird to him. Like, how do you just wake up early in the morning, cursing your child, trashing your child, and just sending them out as if they are children of nobody? All these things summated to fears and conclusions theories from people that are probably, because he does traditional science, is into juju, and is capable of killing people. They actually believe that we had a calabash in our house then, where we place different heads of people. There was that belief then. And then we used to have this plank bridge where people would just come, my dad had this small office then at the backyard, so they would just go there, speak with him, consult, and probably after 10-15 minutes that person is out and going. And then the perception in the environment will be like, this person has probably come to do money ritual, or probably come around to buy probably a head, or an arm of someone from us and all. So that fear was always there. They would tell their children never to climb our plank bridge, because I mean, there was always this tendency of, if you climb the plank bridge leading to that man's house, you might just disappear, or get killed and all. So they tell them never to climb those bridges, never to come there. And because my dad was always putting on white clothes, I mean, I grew up seeing my dad wearing white clothes until the very moment he died. He was always wearing white clothes. People believe that he was into occultism. People believe that he was probably a Boni, or one of these he probably belonged to one of these confraternities. But then, strange as it might sound, my dad made it clear to us right from time that it was a taboo in his family, or even more of a curse and a sacrilege to belong to any confraternity. So he was just a regular man who knew so much about how to combine leaves, how to combine roots, herbs, and then combine words and make things happen. But then he never belonged to any confraternity. But then people never believed, well, their choice. We never got to attend Arabic school. Maybe my sister probably attended, my sister probably attended Arabic school for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to when I was born. And then my dad just got angry one day because, they sent him an invite. They sent him an invite from the school that they were going to do Maulud, and then, they wanted him to be the alaga and donate money to the envelope. And then it was like, what is all this nonsense? Are they trying to extort him in the name of white religion? So it was like, no, his children are not going to Arabic school again. So I grew up into that policy. I grew up into that mandate. No socializing, no going out. The only place you have to go is school, and then you return home immediately. You get locked up till the next day. We didn't really get to know what was going on outside. I mean, most of the trends that were trends during those times passed us by. My dad had this belief that until the ends of a child can actually touch his or her ears, the child is not allowed to go to school. So that was actually, should I say, the mandate or the mantra he used or employed on every other of my siblings. But for me, I was just not ready to allow my hand touch my ears before going to school. So I was very deliberate and adamant that every other kid should go to school. Why would it just be me at home, and then you are just telling me only that you see, you have to get taller, you have to get more mature, and be able to take care of yourself before you can start going to school. I was just not ready for that kind of policy. So I mean, there was this particular morning I just busted into tears. I was just so aggressive and adamant. I had to be in school. I just had to be in school. So they took me to a school in the neighborhood that my sister was already attending, Kingsley Adiola Nursery Primary School. The school is probably deserted now. The school is probably extinct now. Yeah, but then that should be the first school I went to in Ijora then. And then back then, my mom was always coming to pick us from school, myself and my sister. Even though the school and home were so very close, like they were extremely close, my dad would never allow that we come home ourselves. And what is it called? Because my mom didn't really have a shop or something, she was just always going around in the evening to hawk our pap. It was quite easy for her to come and pick us up from school once we close and all. I had this silly lunch box then. That seems like my biggest possession then. It meant the whole world to me. Once they placed some spoonful of rice and plantains in it, I was always feeling big, like during break time when children are going out to buy rice 15 naira, rice 100 naira, I was always with my lunch box eating my things. And on days when I'm lucky, I would even get to go with a fruit juice or a soft drink to go to eat. So we felt like the $10 in Ijoras then. Even though we were just surviving based on what we had and learning to appreciate what we had. Well, it is not insane to say that I and my sister were actually sharp enough right from time. I mean, we were good enough school-wise. I mean, unlike the regular youth of today who would say, back then when I was in school, my results were always A's. If you actually asked me to bring my report card, I'll bring my report card, and then it was not that poor. I mean, there was always excellence in the whole paper. The only subject I always had issues with then was mathematics. I was extremely good in English then, like I was extremely good in English language, and then strangely, my sister was not so good. My sister was not so good with English language, but then she was actually extremely good with mathematics. So there was always this rivalry among us. There was always this competition then. My sister would be the one to do my mathematics assignment for me. I'll be the one to do her English assignment for her. And then at a point, that started bringing this policy of, okay, why can't my sister just teach me what I don't know in mathematics, and then I teach her what she doesn't know in English. But both of us were very arrogant. We were very arrogant and unwilling unwilling to learn, because I mean my sister was always feeling like, why would I, her younger brother, be the one teaching her a particular subject, and I'm always like, why would she be the one teaching me a particular subject? So I mean we are always arrogant, but then I mean that arrogance was just out of love, and then childhood exuberance. Eventually we left Kingsley Adiola. And then we went to Oloye. Yeah, Oloye private school. I mean that is still, should I say, that is still one of the most popular school back then. I still think Oloye is still popular. I mean a lot of people graduated from Oloye, Sonfab, Aniyaloye. We passed through these schools. There was this particular girl in my class then, office art. We were always having this rivalry. If I have 99 over 100 in a particular subject at the end of the day, she probably had 98. So we were always having this rivalry. People were always calling her my wife and all, and then it was just so annoying to think of. Like, why on earth would you call someone who was always competing with me in class my wife and all? But then it was so beautiful to see. I mean, probably that was what kept triggering the fire. Like, okay, I just have to keep up, I just have to sustain. And the fact that whenever we get home from school, we either do our assignments and then watch movies and get home. There was no opportunity to socialize after school or play balls. I mean, I'm still one of those children. I and my sister were still one of those children who knew nothing about sports, even though we grew up in ghetto. I mean, I can't play a ball to save my life. I can't even play table tennis. It is that bad. Yes, it is that terrible. I can't even run. The last time I tried running in primary school, I wounded myself fatally. So whenever we get home, probably because we didn't have the opportunity to socialize, I was always my dad was always buying notes, like a lot of notes and books in the house. So I was always writing, and I mean I watched a lot of Adile movies. I watched a lot of dark Yoruba movies, like the darkest Yoruba movies. So right from childhood, the first broader concept that was in my head was that of witchcraft. I was always imagining things like I would just see a regular old woman. I would be feeling this woman could possibly be a witch. Because I mean I just watched a movie last night. That had to do with witchcraft and all. So I had books then, and because they were mostly Yoruba movies, I didn't grow up watching this Omotola Jalade, Olude Cops. I grew up watching, I started watching those ones maybe later in life. I grew up watching the likes of Abeni Agbon, Yekini Adile, Yagbon Kan, Aderupoko, and Tafa Oloyede and all those sorts. So I would pick a particular note from the house and start writing plays, and then short stories. And then they were always dark stories, dark extreme stories. I was always thinking of, okay, probably a child went on an excursion and then the child got lost, and in the process of getting lost, the child got into the hand of witches, and then the child got killed. Terrifying things. And then whenever I end up writing these things, my sister, my dad, they were always the one reading these notes at home, and they would be like, beautiful stuffs and all. So I felt like, okay, I was actually doing something good and all. And then every time I get home, it became more of a commitment, more of a ritual. Like no week passes by without me writing something in a note and then just dropping it in the house. So everyone might be working in the house. My mom might be cooking, my sister might be sweeping the house, my dad might probably be working on a new concoction or a potion, and then I'm just inside writing. And then when his friends come around, they will be like, why don't you allow this boy to come out and work? And he'll be like, no, he's doing his own work inside. So I mean, that confidence, that free end that I was given right from then kept giving me this seal, like, okay, I was doing something actually sensible. And even before we left Oloye, people in school, my classmates already knew that, okay, this guy was always writing books and all. So sometimes a teacher is probably teaching us in the class in primary school, and then probably the teacher flogged me, and then I'll just get home, find a way to bring that teacher's name into a new story I'm writing, and then I might just say that okay, a witch probably killed the teacher, or the teacher got into the hands of some birds and the birds plucked his eyes away. I mean, that was my own way of always avenging right from childhood. Whenever I had an issue with someone in the classmate, that person must appear in my story. And then if I had a childhood crush, that person would be, you know, the best character in the story, the most interesting and, you know, the favorite character in the story. It was just so ridiculous that way. I didn't even count what I was doing then as art or anything. I was just writing, and then we always buying these 50 naira short stories. Ada goes to school, Mohammed comes to London, Ralia the snake girl. We were always buying these books, reading them, basically to help vocabularies and all. And whenever I read these things, I'm always having this feeling like, when will I get my books out there, you know? When will people actually get to read my works for what they are? So at some point when my dad realized that I was getting really terrible in mathematics and my sister was getting really terrible in English language, he got us a lesson teacher. That man, well, may peace be with him wherever he is, because he flogged the daylight out of us. And even it must be that even after he flogged the daylight out of us, I still don't know so many things in mathematics up to date. And even those things my sister didn't know in English then, she probably knew some, and then, you know, she didn't eventually get to know some until her last days and all. But then, I mean, there was this strictness. Whenever we come back from school, probably by 2 or 3, the guy is already at home waiting for us with a strict face, and then, you know, his unfriendly beards, and then one very long cane. And then my dad will be like, flog them, they must know it, this and that, kinikon. It got to a point we were restricted from watching television. We were restricted from doing anything at home. Just do your assignments, just attend to lessons and all. So by the time we left Oloye, and why did we leave Oloye? My dad was like, okay, the school fees were getting too high. Like every time they were always bringing new policies. Okay, school fees tuition that was probably about 12,000 before. Then, you know, the second time we are seeing 15,000, and then change of school uniform and all. So my dad was tired of all those things, and he was like, okay, fine, he would have to change school for us. And by then my sister was already in junior secondary school. I think I was still in primary 2. Yeah, I was still in primary 2 when my sister was in junior secondary school. So they took me to a public school at Orile. They took my sister to Ajigbeda at the same Orile. They took me to Metropolitan Nursery and Primary School in Orile. And then the day we got there, they said okay, they had to test me to know okay if I would be good for primary 2, or they probably had to put me in primary 1, because I mean I was extremely young, maybe 6 or 7 then. And then because we were already having private lessons and private coaching right from time, I already knew most things that even children in primary 6 have not been taught. And then this big dictionary that was always used by secondary school students, that was the dictionary I was using then. So I mean, when they were going to test me, they were asking us spellings and all. And then the teachers and the head teacher, Mr. Ojo, his name was Mr. Ojo, he was just so surprised, like, how could a boy in primary 2, you know, get to know all of these things and all. So they felt, okay, no, this guy is actually too good to be in primary 2. So they placed me in primary 3. And then while I was in primary 3, Oluremi Tinubu organized a competition then. She was always organizing that yearly competition, New Era Spelling Bee competition for public schools and all. And then it is actually on record that Metropolitan has never won in that competition before. So they just picked some of us then, and they were like, okay, we should go to the preliminaries. I mean, the hope were not there. There was no hope of us winning and all. And then I got home and I was just reading, trying to memorize every spelling I could get in dictionary. Like, no, I just had to get this. I just wanted to do it for the fun of it. I just wanted to go and prove myself. And then, playfully, jokingly as it might seem, that was actually my first winning. I think my first winning in life as a person, if I actually count it as an official winning. And then it must be the way the old teachers were so elated, the old school were so elated, everything was just like, and they were like, okay, this is actually the first time the school is coming first in the competition. And then automatically that means we were qualified for the finals at Alausa. And then there was the fact that, okay, whoever gets to win the final will be a one day governor of Lagos State. I was already feeling extremely glad from the fact that I actually attended. I went to represent my school in the competition, and then I won, and then I got a multi-link phone. I probably 36,000, or how much did they even give me then? But probably 36,000 or 50,000. But it was money was still really valuable then. So I was feeling big, and I had a multi-link phone now. So why are you telling me? At 7 years I was already using it for pocket. So I went for the finals, and then in the process of going for the finals, I lost. I dropped in the finals, and then I felt so bitter. I felt so downtrodden. Like, how could this actually happen? It was yet my first hit of failure. Probably what I considered as failure then, even before I knew what real failure actually meant. Like, in later years, I didn't eat at home for over a week. I was just crying. And then the school was trying to encourage me. Dad and mom were trying to encourage me, like, I tried. At least it's on record that the school got on the prelim, and the school actually won. Like, that record is there, the name is on the suburb and all. But then I was just not satisfied. I just wanted to be a one-day governor. That was all I just wanted. It was not even about the win itself. It was just about the feeling like And then that was the period when I was watching this Alasari movie. Is it Ashiri Gomino or Jokon? So I was feeling like, Gomino, I could actually just make things happen. At least, NEPA won't even have to take light for whole day. So I had all those wide imaginations. And then getting back to school after the whole rigmarole, they felt okay. I was too good to be in primary 3. So I didn't get to finish that first term in primary 3. They promoted me to primary 4. So while I was undergoing primary 4, the competition, another edition of the competition came, and I went to represent the school again. And then, as God would have it, I won in the prelim again. And then it was so big, like, okay, we have to do this. I was having this imagination of, okay, fine, this whole thing is finally coming to life. Like, nothing can stop me from being a one-day governor and all. And then I got to the finals again at Alausa, and then they asked me to spell that nonsense word, paparazzi. I still can't get that word out of my head. It was paparazzi. Like, that was the word, just a 9-letter word. I was spelling nonsense. I was spelling jargons. And before you knew it, I just heard the bell rang. They even gave me a second chance. I still spelled nonsense. I cried all the way from Alausa in the bus. I cried to Orile. From Orile, I walked from Orile to Ijora. I was crying. As if I lost money. Just because I lost out in a competition. And then again, there was that feel like, okay, I represented the school in some other competitions. Ohando organized some competitions then. There was this competition also by some South African guys. I actually won quite a lot of laurels for my school. And then I think the only class I finished to bar was primary 4. Yeah. I didn't get to stay in primary 5 for even 2 weeks. And then I was promoted to primary 6. And then I didn't even spend up to a term in primary 6 before I was enrolled. for common entrance. So I mean, I got out of primary school so fast. I got out of primary school so fast. I mean, immediately I was out of primary school, my teachers were already giving us options like, okay, this is the secondary school you should go to. This boy is too good to, be in any school that won't help his education. So I think I went to Stadium then. Yes, I went to Stadium High School, and then because there was this concept I was taught right from home. Don't open your books for people in class. Like, I've never really understood the concept of why I will leave school, get home, have sleepless nights, working on an homework, and then I will just get to school, and then someone is there trying to dub what I've written or what I was probably flogged for. So whenever I get to school, I was always like, okay, I'm not allowing anybody to dub my assignments, and then it's always getting me beaten, it's always getting me bullied. And then I was not a good fighter, I was not social, so I mean, I don't even know how to defend myself. So I was beaten so much in Stadium until I think the final day of our exam in Stadium, that was the first time in JSS1, I was beaten, and in the process of being beaten, I was thrown from the stairs. And then that was my first and only time of going into coma. I was thrown from the stairs. So immediately I got well and resuscitated and all. My dad was like, no, he's not going to that school again. So they took me to Iponri. And on getting to Iponri, the same trend continued. I was still being bullied, still being beaten. And it must be the fact that teachers are actually always supporting these children. And I was always like, if I could read my book and know it, then what stops these people from doing the same thing? Again, I was beaten to the extent they had to cut all my body with knife. I think it was probably while I was in Ikmori, either Ikmori or Stadium, must be one of those schools. I had an encounter with a bully, must be Ikmori. I had an encounter with a bully, and in the process of having that encounter with a bully, people, whenever I get beaten at school and then I come home, people were always telling me it's because I cannot defend myself. So I felt, okay, how can I be able to defend myself? So that morning I got to school. Assembly was just about to begin. I was in class, and then this guy, probably because he was older and more huge and all, he came to meet me and then snatched my bag, and before you knew it, he was already trying to take out my books. And then I was trying to fight him, like chase him off and all, and then the guy was just threatening to slap me. So in the process of the guy giving me a slap or two, I pulled his palms, and in the process of pulling his palm, I bit off his thumb. Yeah, it was his thumb. I bit off his thumb until it fell off, and then it caused the whole catastrophe in the school that day. Like, is this guy a vampire? How can you bite off someone's finger? They invited his parents. They invited my dad, and then my dad came and he was like, because his teeth is his only defense mechanism. So that was why he had to defend himself with his teeth. They were like, we'll pay the boy hospital bills and all. My dad was like, we're never going to pay any bills. None of that is going to happen. So I mean, in the whole process of that, I left the school even before I was expelled. I left the school like, no, this school is not just for me. I can't just be here. And then they decided that probably the bullying was insistent because I was going to schools that were so far from home. So they took me to Nancy group of school, and that was a closed school that was just a stone throw to our home then. And then the very first day I got to school, I had an encounter with the current head boy, and then he flogged me. He asked me to pull my shirt, and he flogged me so much at the back, like I had so many slices and strokes of blood and splashes on my back. So my mom went with me to the school the next day, and then she asked of the head teacher, and then the head teacher was trying to beg her like, okay, the head boy couldn't have flogged me without a reason and all. And then the old boy too just came out of nowhere, and then he was like, They were making noise in the class. That was why he flogged all of us. And then the next thing was that slap is still very memorable. That slap is still very memorable because I knew my mom slapped him. My mom slapped him, and I was not sure if it was saliva or blood that came out of his mouth. And then till the boy actually left, till he actually graduated out of the school, we never had another encounter. Everybody was always trying to be, this low-key jovial. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I had a lot of experiences in Nancy. From GS1 third term. I think that was still my most intriguing experiences. I got to meet different classmates, the likes of Ahmed Daniel, Xavier Joy, Emmanuel Faith, Jayola Kudus. These were the guys that everyone had a clique then. We had a clique. We were the front benchers. Yeah, we were the front benchers. The back benchers were the troublemakers. The front benchers like us were those who just sit at the front, and then the teachers are always focusing on us like, yes, serious students, and then our result at the end of the day actually always proves that we are actually good and all, but maybe we just had retentive memories because I, as a person, I actually don't read consistently at home. I just have this thing of always remembering everything I've been taught. Like once I'm taught on sport, if I understand it right there, there's always that possibility that I will always understand it. And then if I don't understand it, cramming will show you. So that experience was there. And I mean, while I was in Nancy, the vibe to write was more consistent. I was writing on a mad range. By then, I was writing English stories. I was writing stories in Yoruba. And then I had a teacher then, Balogun Yusuf. He was our literature teacher. Yeah, he was our literature teacher, civic education, government. He also stays in the environment. So we kind of flowed together. We kind of related together. So he was always trying to encourage me to, work on my writings, and then that I could be a good writer. I could make a good writer. So I remember writing a book then, Days of Infirmity. It was a very short story, like a pamphlet, and then I took the manuscript to him, and he edited it and told me it could get published and all, but the funds were not there. So I kept the book somewhere, hoping that some days I'll be able to get it published. And then Balogun Yusuf eventually left the school, but then we were still in communications. And then another teacher came, then Yemi Ade. And in the process of Yemo Ade coming to the school, we actually started relating. And then he kind of encouraged me like, okay, you can work on publishing the book and all. And yes, I think I was in GSS3, or was it GSS3, or I was in SS1, probably SS1, yeah, SS1, because I didn't wait so much in SS2 before I left and went to write my WAEC. So we published that book. We published Days of Infirmity then. And then when we published that book, it was like I was already having this feeling like I was going to be a well-known author. I'm going to be another Chino Achebe. Immediately I published that book, I was already feeling like Chimamanda Adichie and some low-budget Wole Soyinka. I didn't know that. And I was surprised we were still in the box for me. Yeah, I published my first book. Before I got out of secondary school, and then I left Nancy in I think SS2, early SS2, and then I opted in for what is it called, SSC. And in the process of writing my SSC in the private center, they said because we were assured that as much of us that didn't pay for runs, we were going to have F9s in our paper. And then all my papers, I had F9 in all my papers, just because I didn't pay for runs. And then I was really like, why should I have to pay for runs when I know exactly what I'm to write in my examination and all. I remember then they were writing a black signature on every of our scripts. Those of us that didn't pay for runs, probably 1,500 naira. So I mean, when the results came out, I was so bitter, I was so pained, so downtrodden, and I felt okay, fine. I would opt in for another one. I mean, I desperately wanted to get to Unilag. I wanted to get into Unilag, study law, become a lawyer. I just wanted to study law. I just wanted to study law, even though my dad wanted me to be a doctor. No, I just wanted to be a lawyer. And the fact that I just wanted to be a lawyer, I just wanted to get into University of Lagos and study law, and then just be there. Even though I was writing, even though I didn't really consider writing as something I could sit down with and survive upon and all, I opted in for another SSC. And in the process of opting in for another SSC, I actually paid for runs, even though I didn't use the answers. I paid for runs just to give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and then just add my way. And then on the final day of the exam, I heard that the riot happened at the center, and then someone was killed. And then by the time the results would come out, every single one of us had their results cancelled. So at that point, I felt like, okay, this is not it. And right from time, I've never believed in the concept of, okay, actually sitting so long with, or placing my life and my self-worth on what papers and grades says. There's the paper syndrome culture in Nigeria that I was always trying to be against, always trying to oppose. That okay, why can't I be something even if I decide not to toe this path? So I felt that series of events triggered the rebellion in me. It triggered the rebel in me. So I just felt okay, I'm not attempting again. I'm not trying to even force my way into an higher institution. Maybe some days when I'm out of the country, I might consider that. But as far as Nigeria is concerned, this system is not for me. This space is not for me. I just wanted to be a lord in my space. I just wanted to be able to speak, to have my own voice in such a way that at the end of the day, in times to come, I can equally speak out like this, and then actually say and come to tell most of the grievances in me. If you could recollect, before I left secondary school, I already had days of infirmity. So that built an audience space for me on Facebook. The likes of Obusayo, MFR and all, they already knew me on Facebook. I was already feeling like a Facebook celebrity. They sent me on an errand at home. Do you know that I'm a celebrity at home? How would they be sending me to go and carry spoon? So I saw this flyer of an event happening at Costain, and Costain was just a 15 naira tricycle from Ijora. I saw a flyer of an event happening at Costain, Waterholics, and then I was supposed to go to the event that month, but I didn't go to the event. I skipped it. And then a senior colleague in the space, who later became a friend, some Poego philosopher, they had a video shoot. Was it a video shoot? No, it was not even a video shoot. This was an hangout. He had a WhatsApp platform, them Citadel of Life. So he had an hangout. And then when I saw it, and I was like, okay, I was going to go here. I was already writing poetry on Facebook then. So I was going to go here and then see how it even feels like to socialize and then be here. And then on that particular day, I was calling Son Paul on phone that I'm leaving home. Once I leave, I don't know how to get to the event. Wait for me at the bus stop and all. And then the guy was not picking up. And then the next thing, everyone was at home like, they will kidnap you, this and that, you don't go, this and that, they are kidnappers. You met people on social media, you want to go and meet them. So I mean, that event was guilted. I couldn't go until what Waterholics happened again at Costain. And this time around, when it happened, I told my dad I was going to go here. I was going to be here. So he came with me to Waterholics at Costain then, and then I mean, that was the first time I met with the likes of Ayokunle Komolafe, Freezing Paul. Most of these guys, I met with them there. And then I remember my very first performance, even though it was a reading, it was so terrible. It was so terrible. Even the poem I read then, I'm very sure that if I see someone reading that kind of poem now, I can throw bottle water at that person. But then it was the growth process. Looking back now, it was the growth process. It was the involvement process, building myself, the evolutions and all those things. So from that, I got an interview called C Vivid Verses, Wodaholics on Metro FM. And before you knew it, the name was spreading. I got to meet Eyata Oribabo, who was the founder of Poet in Nigeria, attended Art Hub. I remember that I wanted to perform at Art Hub then. The first time I went there, I didn't get to perform. They didn't give me a chance to perform until the second edition of the event, when I eventually got to perform. I mean, the likes of AJ Dagatola, Abdul Wadud King, most of these guys were there, and then that was some of the breaking points for me. And before you knew it, the name was there within the space, within the space trying to grow to become an industry. It was just expanding, and people were saying, "Guy, your art is good." I mean, I didn't start with Yoruba poetry. I was always performing the regular English poetry, maybe just dressing in my regular Ankara wears and native wears, coming to events, adding that idiosyncrasy touch. And I still remember my very first work, Ori. It was a mixture of English and Yoruba. And then before you knew it, I was putting out works strictly in Yoruba. And because yes, one, my background had an influence on me. Apart from the fact that my dad was an ardent worshipper and believer in the traditional science and path, my mom could trace her roots to Ayan, to the drummers, and then Obatala. I have a talking drum at home that I'm very poor at beating, sadly. I wish I learned how to beat it when I was younger, but then hard luck. So I mean, these old things came together. They came together to form that part. And then when my dad realized that, okay, fine, I was not towing the part of traditional medicine, but I was towing the part of poetry, Yoruba poetry. Strangely, I was expecting him to be angry and all, but I mean, he was supporting me. Till the very moment he died, he was always with me at every event. We would go to Abeokuta, spend days in Ile-Ife without being paid for poetry events, go on our pocket money, and crash at a friend's place, sleep hungry. When we go to Ibadan, we'll crash at Sheriff's place, eat moi moi, and all these things. It was just basically the struggling lifestyle. But then that taught me resilience. The fact that he was always with me, the fact that he was always going with me, taught me a lot of resilience. That okay, probably this thing I was doing was making sense, because I mean, if my dad was always following me, leaving his job, I mean, customers would call him at home that they're actually at home waiting for him and all those sort of. But then he would be like, no, my son has an outing today, I have to be at the event with him. He will leave home for 3-4 days, and then we'll be walking around the old street of Abeokuta, Ibadan, Osun, just for one event of probably 10-15 people in the audience. And then even if no one is clapping, he's actually always clapping. And then it's always giving me that joy, that validation, that I actually don't need any extra validation or thumbs up from anyone. Because I mean, I'm always getting that applause from him. I'm always getting that validation from him. No matter how whack my heart would be, it would always feel like, okay, this is good enough. This is the best thing that have happened. I mean, home, the acceptance I got from home was the most powerful asset I needed. And even now that he's no more, even now that my sister is no more, I mean, the love I got from all these people, coupled with my mom, it was just enough to keep me going on this journey. I mean, whenever I have productions, he would support me with the cash he has at hand, even if the production is happening at home or somewhere else, he would always be there, be ready to put in all his resources. It was just beyond the regular father-child relationship. I mean, in the Nigerian society I grew up in the Joran society I grew up in, where the standard was like, okay, the father must be strict, you cannot even converse with your father for long, you cannot speak with your father for long. It was the opposite. I had that bond. I had that bond with him. The way I cried the morning he died, I don't think I've ever cried that much since I was born. I mean, I cried and I knew I cried, and trying to even say I'll ever recover from that trauma of his death or that of my sister's death is something so unrealistic, because man, it was a blow, and it is still a blow. It is still a blow. But then I mean, I feel like he has taught me enough lessons and resilience and a lot of tips to take me down on this path. The fact that he would always tell you things will get harder. Nǹkan máa le ní tẹ́lẹ̀ bá ṣe ń dàgbà sí ni nǹkan máa le sí. And then is it not just true? Fuel scarcity everywhere. NEPA is not bringing light because I mean they have an issue with secretariat and they are trying to settle 450 million debts. I'm probably waking up in the morning and then my phone is refusing to work out of the blues. Generator is refusing to work out of the blues, and then generator mechanic has to collect money. We are begging people to come and make poetry calls just so we can have urgent 2k to eat, and then they are not agreeing. We are even begging people to pay for our art. But then at the end of the day, through this art, through this path, even though they tell you never be a full-time artist, it is insane to be a full-time artist, a full-time creative in a country like this where the creative industry is sidelined and all. I've had my fair shares of the sovereigns and the punishments. I'm still going through the scars. They don't just show on the body. Once we wear agbada and the cap and cream up and all, you understand salam in the making. Sakpa deal. But then, even with the old thrones and the old tropes and all, we are still glad we are here. And then I don't feel like I could have chosen a better path than this. I don't even think I want to ever resign from this path, regardless of how hard or stormy it gets. I know somewhere in the tunnel there is light. And even if there's no light, we would lit up a firewood, or just take 2 stones and scratch them until it brings fire. Somehow, some way, we just have to be the light we seek. Because I mean, even when it's extremely dark, the shadow is still there. And then the moon is still somewhere up there, still trying to say, I dey here. So regardless of people saying, people doing poetry in English are not yet successful. Not to talk of people now doing it in Yoruba, and now he's a full-time creative. He's not even willing to do 9 to 5. I still believe that I'm making it big here, and that is not even enough. I'm sending out only to Arena London for Yoruba poetry and art very soon, and you just have to wait to see it happen, whether you believe it or not. It will happen. That was my first interactive poetry, visual poetry project, and I basically wrote the poem then. Because I was trying to play around with my mom's alphabet, and then I was rebelling in my then singlehood. And then I was trying also to experiment with love poems. So that was just one of those random poems that came to me, and then before you knew it just came to be so stellar and telling. It was the breakout for me as an artist on YouTube. Like the videos, the concept of visual selves, I actually agree with it more because of Lagdiba. Going away from that, I have so many works, but at least the most experimental and the most interesting of them was the Adaoloro and the Yami Ifeoka. Adaoloro is an erotic Yoruba poem, and then being that the Yoruba language is a very delicate language. It's a very delicate and intricate language where you are expected not to speak on some things, just such as sexuality and eroticism, except you are saying it in the closet and all. I wanted to break out of that norm. I wanted to break the stereotype, and then I wanted to experiment what it feels like to write a poem in Yoruba that is actually erotic and nasty and lewd. And then I checked the archives of predecessors, Láńrewájú Adépọ̀jù, Epo Àkàrà, Fọ́yànmọ́, and all those guys, and then they were not really content that were erotic except low-key. I wanted to go full-blown. With it, and that was why I worked on Adaoloro. And then it was so beautiful seeing the acceptance. I mean, fine, there were people who felt like, oh, this and that, he's becoming this, he's becoming that, but I mean, it is the voices. It's not even about the voices. Whether it's not even about the voices of the minorities, every voice counts. But then it is the voice that we actually want to listen to that counts. You have to learn to separate the wheat from the chaff. The acceptance was intriguing. I mean, it's beautiful to see people actually come to terms with their body, with their nature, with their sexuality, with the fact that, okay, we are actually all process. We are all products of this act, of this process. And then Iyami Oshorunga, whenever a random Yoruba man hears Iyami Oshorunga, the first thing that comes to the head is Ajileye, witchcraft, Iyagbo Nkan, Abeni Agbon, a bird is flying by 2 a.m. Some women in black are having meetings and all. That has always been my concept right from childhood. But the moment I got to realize that it is entirely something different, it might not necessarily be, about witches and all. And maybe witches are not actually witches in the real sense. Maybe witches are just sincere women that have refused to be stereotyped, that have refused to be mellowed down. And then in that rebellion, in that refusal to be mellowed down, they attack the witches, they attack males, they attack the evil people. So I wanted to celebrate women. I wanted to praise women. I wanted to make women feel fly. That was the whole idea of Iyami Oshorunga. Celebrate them, towing the mystic path, towing the path that is not regularly towed, towing the path that is not regular. And then I got a lot of backlashes. I mean, I knew it was spiritual in a way. I knew it was mystic in a way. I got a lot of backlashes from not having a willing studio engineer to run the recording of the work, because they felt, this guy is praising witches, this guy is this and that. And then when I eventually got a studio engineer to work with, I think his studio was unavailable for one reason or the other, so he brought his equipment home, and then I had to go home with him to run the recording. I went with a friend, David Odiasi, popularly regarded as 78 Psalmist, and in the process of going for the recording, like while we were recording, I was voicing the work inside, the guy's mother called him. And was like telling him that work, why would he take up that kind of production? Why would he take up that kind of work? He must not produce the work. I should either ditch the work or something and all. So the guy came in looking really sad and all. And then the guy was like, okay, I shouldn't be worried, he will find a way around it. So the guy he eventually mixed the work, but without the knowledge of his mom, just to live up to expectations. And then after getting the work done, there was the issue of, okay, would this work there be someone willing to shoot this work? And even if there was someone willing to shoot this work, would people be willing to come on board for this kind of production? John Chizoba Vincent was there as always to produce the work without objections and all. I remember that a night to the production, I went to have my bath, and then I saw 3 cats. In the bedroom, and then I was like, okay. And then African parents has this way of telling you, this and that, teacher don't show you. But then that belief was there, and I had this belief that, okay, I was not treading a path, or I was not trying to be sacrilegious with the content I was doing. So I was like, okay, it's actually normal to see mysticism when you are doing mystic paths. I still remember how the socket almost burnt off, or actually burnt off on the day we were going to have the shoot. And then after the whole shoot and all, my grandmother died My maternal grandmother died on the day we were having that shoot. So immediately after the shoot, we had to go to my village in Kwara for the burial. And then just before we concluded the burial, I started noticing that my mouth was tilting to the left side. Like it was tilting, the whole of my face was tilting. And then even if I was talking, my mouth was tilting, my eyes were getting enclosed as though I was going to become blind. They said okay, it was fever, it was this and that. They applied all sorts of things, did incisions, everything. These things actually refused to go. Like it was still there for a very long time until probably when my dad died. That was when it started returning back to its normal form, I still can't come to process what exactly actually took place in the process of that and all. But then I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. When you throw stones at a window, you should expect to hear the voice of those staying in the house. So I mean, I wasn't surprised. But then I mean, it was homemade at the end of the day. It was my mother's playing with me. Talking about the acceptance of Yami Oshunga as a concept, as a content, you know, there are still some people who have vowed to date that they will never listen to that work. They will never watch that work on YouTube. And yes, they didn't watch it, and you know, we are still good, we are still in good terms and all. And then you know, there are still some people who watched it despite the fact that we released the work in the midnight, or should I say late in the night. I mean, in less than 24 hours we accumulated over 1,000 views already on YouTube. It was big for me, like it was a milestone for me. And up till now, the work is still one of my biggest raking video in terms of followerships and views. Like it expanded, it crossed borders. Like even places I've not been able to step on as a person, the work actually crossed borders to that place. Portuguese, Brazil, you know, it connected me to a lot of places. And even though the work has never been aired on TVs, because a lot of presenters told me, I mean, I still remember the TV presenter telling me it is not airworthy, that he watched the video at night, and then you know he was having nightmares for a whole week. It still reminds me of the fact that people just tend to, you know, demonize things that they can't seem to understand. And it is so sad, it is so disturbing how we you know, demonize things that are actually part of us, things that are so harmless. But then at the end of the day, it is what it is. And it is my belief that gradually, with the art, with this propagation, you know, with this cultural revitalization, people will learn to celebrate their heritage, accept themselves for who they are, and actually believe that yes, we are Africans and proud. This is our roots, and we have nowhere else to be if not here. So after my dad's and you know sister's death, 2020, 2021 respectively, I just had to leave Lagos for a while with my mom and you know my niece, just to have a calm head, replot, and you know bounce back from the whole stuff. And then when I came to Ibadan, there were so many conversations like, Gemini, how would you leave Lagos and go to Ibadan? Like talking of literary landscapes and all, Lagos has the most thriving the most thriving literary culture. So like why would you leave Lagos and go to Ibadan? It's more like you are going to kill yourself there. It's just more like you are going to bury yourself there. But I mean, I'm here in Ibadan and I'm still holding my space. I'm still holding my terrain. I'm still as much as relevant as I can be, and you know, because I mean, it is what is in the head that matters. It doesn't really matter where your legs takes you to, because regardless of where I get to be, as long as that fire of art is still within me, I feel like I can do and undo anything in a minute. It's my most powerful weapon. So when I came to Ibadan, I was coming to take over, and yes, I am taking over. The LDR is approved. Well, I'm not so much a fan of, you know, counting achievements by number of plaques or medals in the house, but yeah, these are some of the, should I say, achievements or appreciations I've gotten in regards of my art and my person. This year is one of my oldest antiquity, so to say. I got it 2009, Yeah, I got it 2009 when I entered for the spelling bee competition I made mention of in Metropolitan. It was one of those melders. I mean, every of the other things they gave me went with the moment, but this stayed with me. This stayed with me forever. And then every time I look at it, I relish childhood. I relish the nostalgia of that time, and then the beauty of that moment. It's just so beautiful to see. And yeah, I got this from Yoruba Youth Summit. Yes, that one should be it. Yes, I got it from Voice of Yoruba Youth in 2017. I guess that was my first award as an artist, and as a person. I got it in Abeokuta, and then that same event was where I met Remy Chanta and the likes of these guys, Tony Pepe and the likes. And it has been a beautiful experience from that, and then even the growth from that moment 2017 downwards to this particular moment. It's just so beautiful to see. I got this in 2018. Yeah, I got this in 2018 from the Yoruba Celeb magazine, which describes me as the most promising act of the year. Well, I still have my flair for the Nollywood space and all. I'm not just so big on playing down for roles and all those shit, but yeah, I most promising act of the year. I feel a lot of things has evolved from then. This was 2018. This is also from 2018. Yes, On of Afro Classical Awards. I got this from On of Afro Classical Awards. I think the event was in Oyo. Yeah, the event was somewhere in Oyo, probably at Iba University or so. I can't remember very well, but the event was in Oyo, organized by Mujiri Shino Ayomi Brown. Organized by Mujiri Shino Ayomi Brown. And yes, it was one of those spectacular moments when we are not just in a literary garden, but then we are getting our art appreciated on a larger level. hmm And then dating back, we have this from 2019 from Writers Hangout Initiative. Writers Hangout Initiative is run by Sami Omoba, and then a friend of mine, Bukola Alade Sulu. So I got this courtesy Writers Hangout Initiative from an event they held then, which I was part of the guest at. Yeah, I guess it's one of those surprises I didn't really look forward to, but yeah, it has been a stellar prize since then. And then we have this from 2021. Yes, I got this also from Writers Hangout Initiative. I got this last year from Writers Hangout Initiative. They held an event probably at Egbeda or so. And yeah, these two, just like the other one, is a surprise. I mean, there are a whole lot of other laurels and on, should I say, non-physical medals that cannot be made mention of. I mean, the best achievement is still people. The best achievement is still humans. But then dating back, I mean, I still wake up, see these things, and then I feel appreciated, I feel recognized, I feel that okay, somewhere is actually watching, and then I have a tribe, I have a community of people who appreciate my art and who see the value in them. So yeah, to more creation of stellar art, to more creation of evergreen art, to creating impact in people's art through art. I look forward to doing more.